Puritia mai te tāuri o te rangi kia tīna, kia wena, kia toko te mana waora. Tīna toko te mana waora ki wea. Tīna toko te mana waora ki rangi nui e tū nei ki papatua nuku e takoto nei. Ki tēnā tātai te wānau ngā whanaunga me ngā piri ngā kāranga maa. Āpiti atu rā ki te unga mā ui ki te unga e tāmea nei te pauritanga koiara e rongo waka iri ake ki runga tūturu o uti waka maua kia tīna ui e tai ki e. E rere atu rā ngā mihi ki rātou ko mene atu rā ki te pōnui, ki te pōroa, ki te pō e wakamatuku ai te tangata aere e rere atu rā. Ko māringi ngā roimata, ko māturuturu te upe, nei ko te ngawi o te unga ora e tatangi atu ana ngā tangi, nō reira rukutai pō ko te unga mate ki te unga mate. Rukutai au ko te unga ora ki te unga ora ti e kureperepe, ti e kurapapa, ti e mauri ora. Nō reira, koutou e mātakitaki mai ana ki tēnei o ngā wakāturanga i runga i te korimako o Taranaki. Ko tō tātou nei kaupapa, e aro atu ana ki tēnei momo ko te co-governance. Nō reira, ka whakaputi atu, ki roto I te reo Pākehā, kia mōhio ai tata katoa. So welcome everybody who is watching, near or far, here at Te Korimako o Taranaki. I am very humbled that we have three amazing, beautiful guests tonight, talking about co-governance and the importance of co-governance. So we have Māina, we have Matua Anuru, and also we have Puna as well. So first and foremost, I'm going to ask Māina if she could introduce herself to us all. Kia ora.
Kia mai tātai, ko Māhina rangi tōku ingoa. No kahungunu ahau, ke konei au e na hoana. Kia ora everybody, my name is Māhina. I am from Ngāti Kahungunu and I currently reside here. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Puna, would you be able to mihi ki te unga i mātakitaki mai ana?
Ai, tēnā koe ngāne ko te whānau o te korimako o Taranaki, kia koe hoki e te tua inei I roto I a Ngāti Kahungunu, tēnā koe, koe hoki Matua Anaru, ko hau ko Puna Wano-Bryant, ko Taranaki te Āti Awa Ngāti Mutunga, Ngāti Awa Ngā Iwi, tēnei ahau tō mōkai, tēnei pō me tēnei kaupapa. Kia ora.
And the lucky last, Matua Anaru.
Tēnā koto katoa, ko Andrew Judd tōku ingoa, live here in Mutu, New Plymouth, and just mihi to my colleagues who are here to discuss tonight, and I love you all. Kia ora.
And myself, I am Nganiko, I am your host, and I'm from Puketapu, from Mururapatu Marae. So first of all, I'm going to go straight to our manuhiri from Eretaunga and ask, how are you feeling in regards to tonight? Our kōrero is about co-governance.
I'm feeling actually really pleased to know that Māori are picking up the conversation, especially as experiencing what we have experienced this week here in Heretaunga. In terms of co-governance, I heard your kōrero in the beginning. A lot of our people aren't actually aware of what it even is. And so I just mihi ana kia koe for bringing this conversation to light so that, you know, it can be a way to inform and educate our people on what it actually is.
And so my first question is, how has it been for these last couple of days for Heretaunga, for all the people that have turned up? How are you feeling?
Well, honestly, I'm sick because of energy spent resisting the new rhetoric that is being spread around with the anti-governance campaign. A lot of our whānau have actually fallen sick from it. But our wairua, I feel liberated. I feel more unified with my people. So there, you know, he painga o roto o ngā mahi Julian, he's actually brought my people together, and I haven't seen this kind of unity for a long time. So yeah.
And so can you just kind of describe the atmosphere that you had pretty much been surrounded by these last couple of days. It wasn't just one day, wasn't it?
No. So there were 3 hui held. Ngāti Kahungunu was well aware of these hui that were to be held. So we had actually gone ahead and asked those venues to not host these hui because of the kōrero and the rhetoric that they're spreading. And so when it came to the Monday night that's just gone, when we were called down to come and waiata and protest in peace, that's exactly what it was. So when I arrived, our whānau was there in full force, flags flying, waiata going, tamariki and pakeke together, I raro te whakaaro kotahi. So, yeah, that's how I was feeling in terms of being with my people, but the feelings that we all shared during these protest nights, even hearing the kōrero from Julian Batchelor himself, I'm just bringing up the name because I feel like we haven't brought his name up, hearing him say the things that he was saying about us, that was actually quite hurtful. It was hurtful to see the police physically and visually side with Julian Batchelor. It was disappointing to see us being treated unfairly in terms of people being arrested. People were arrested. Well, one person was arrested, and it wasn't a person who physically assaulted or harmed anyone else. I would like to announce here tonight that Julian Batchelor did lay his hands on the person who was arrested, and he was not arrested. So my feelings towards that is there's still a lot of bias. There's still a lot of prejudice and double standards being shown to us as Māori from the New Zealand Police. We did challenge the New Zealand Police, and the matter has actually been resolved. So for those who have just heard this kōrero, there's no need to continue that whawhai on because we've actually resolved it internally. But I'm bringing it to light because his tour has not finished, and he will be arriving into other iwi throughout the rest of his campaign.
That's a lot of aroha that I'm wanting to give to you straight away, because knowing very well that it was physically draining, but Wairo, I'm hearing that there's a lot of strength and a lot of unity.
Yes.
For me, I want to ask, what was some of the messages that were being broadcasted, or broadcast may be a bit too informal, but he hanga kōrero, he hanga karere I tuku mai te wānau.
Mai I te whānau ki aia, ki a mātou anō rane.
Yeah, ki koutou, ki te iwi, mo te iwi.
Oh, so you're just trying to gauge the general whakaaro of the people protesting? I think we should all share the same whakaaro, and that what we saw and what we experienced from Julian himself and the way the police had handled it. A lot of us are very hurt. A lot of us are very offended because we understand the history of the Māori history in Aotearoa in terms of racism, and it's, even though we know that those things have happened to us, everyone here is actually still in shock and even surprised that we can still see it today. So that's the general whakaaro across the board with our people.
And my final question for you before you leave us tonight is, what are some kōrero that you would like to share to everybody? Like he kōrero e wakatepe, he iriake rānei, before you head off?
Ko taku kōrero matua mai I ngā whea ko I tēnei wiki, ki te whakatū I ngā tāngata whakahaere I ngā mahi I roto I o Tata Iwi, hei whakakore I ēnei momo kōrero. So I think we need to charge our people in our iwi who are in high places to take a stand publicly, to have a voice from you know, the official iwi body, because when we do that, it creates a lot of unity. That's the main kōrero that I want to get across today, because Ngāti Kahungunu, our iwi incorporation, express their concern prior to the campaign arriving into town. They showed support during the process and even have been following up, have also released a public statement. And just that small act alone, that the iwi sitting at the level that they are, or that board, has actually brought our people together and made us stronger. And that's the core. I think that's the kōrero that I want to leave here today. I don't want to tell everyone to hate on Julian, or I don't want to talk about that really. I just think giving other people strength by displaying our own strength is the kōrero that I want to give today. Kia ora.
Nō reira, me mihi katika ki a koe, ngā mihi mano anui, ngā mihi mano tōroa ki a koe. Me tō iwi, a kaungunu I tai Māori atu, kia tuku ngā kōrero, I raro I tēnei momo āhuatanga. Nō reira, ngā mihi ki a koe te tuahine.
Kia ora, aroha mai, me wehe au, kia haere au ki te whakarite I a mātou mahi moa popo. Tomorrow, Ngāti Kahungunu will be doing a display of Māori pride, taking a leaf out of the book of our Mate Maatonga friends and our Samoan friends, where they had their rugby games and they inspired the people. That's what we will be doing tomorrow, our popo here in Ngāti Kahungunu. So, me haere au ki te whakarite I rā mahi.
All the best.
It's not a protest.
Oh. Well, we heard it here first on Te Korimako e Te Iwi. Ngā mihi ki a koe, me ki koutou o Ngāti Kahungunu.
Tēnā koutou, kia kahara Taranaki.
How do we feel about hearing Māina's kōrero in regards to these last couple of days that have been happening over in Here Taunga Matua Anaru?
Yeah, I mean, that's where do you start, right? How do you really unpack that in so many levels? You know, your own spiritual feeling, the journey we've all been on with Māori wards, been watching this build up, knowing he's coming to our rohi, how you manage that in a way that doesn't feed that beast, yet still sends a signal. It's the pain, because I've watched the videos, I've seen the reactions, and as a Pākehā man, it just tears my heart to shreds to know that you think you've come so far, yet in so many ways we haven't gone anywhere since we arrived here, really.
And for yourself, Puna?
Ori te pauri ki tā matua anaru. You know, there's always more work to do in this space. That is the denouncing of racism, that is anti-racism in this country. And, you know, Matua Moana Jackson was asked the question, what is white supremacy? And he said, it's colonization. And so, and I know we don't like to use the big hard-hitting words, but, you know, there are many people who contribute to the positive movement, which is reconciliation in this nation. And, you know, I'm a part of that, and so is Matua Anaru, and it's a really fruitful journey to be on. It's something that we're committed to as Tangata Tiriti and Tangata Whenua, but there is always lots more work to do. And this anti-co-governance roadshow reminds us of that, that there is much more to do.
So My first question, Matua, is co-governance. What is co-governance to you? And how can you uphold what co-governance means to you?
So for me personally, it all stems back to Te Tiriti o Waitangi, because that's the founding connection that brings us together. And Māori wards, co-governance, examples of that attempt to fulfil that obligation. And so for me, it's around acknowledging Te Tiriti and working together in ways and models like co-governance to share the aspirational connections of two peoples. And yeah, I mean, Māori Wards was never going to be, never was, never is the end journey. It's the beginning of finding a lot of this out, because I would suggest, from my lived experience, we haven't actually been treaty partners as Pākehā. And so I'm looking to stand strongly in the space of Tangata Tiriti and creating a new conversation, one that should have been had but needs to be had, is Tangata Tiriti. And with Māori, how are we going to have this conversation about what co-governance means for each other? And I think the likes of Mr. Batchelor and his tour have highlighted the need of a transition period for Pākehā to stand up and allow that space to be filled for mana whenua, tangata whenua.
And yourself, Puna?
What is co-governance? Yeah, it's become quite an academic term, I think, but it's the sharing of power. It's the sharing of power and authority in mana whakahaere, the way in which we govern ourselves. And, you know, the extent of, you know, mana motuhake, it's not confined to co-governance. We govern ourselves outside of the tables of co-governance, which largely speaking is, you know, government decision-making tables. That's what I think co-governance is. So, yeah, to me, there's always the more important conversation, which is, and co-governance doesn't even touch the sides of it, which is, you know, the exclusive, undisturbed possession of our whenua taonga, reo katoa, and our autonomy, our tino rangatiratanga. That's the starting point for me always. And then working back from that, yep, we'll get involved in co-governance as well. But the thing is co-governance is not a new thing to Māori. And I think the fear-mongering that's going on with the likes of Julian Batchelor and co is that they're not used to sharing power, whereas we are, you know, at our whānau level, at our hapu level, and certainly i te taonga mai o Tauiwi, you know, when Pākehā arrived and colonisation occurred, we always invited Pākehā to sit at our table with us. And Pariaka is no exception when it comes to that narrative of being invited in, even though ko te hoariri, the enemy, to sit at our table, and as To'u Te Whiti said, to sit at the table and eat from the same dish, which is quite different to sitting at the table and having a conversation at arm's length. You know, eating from the same dish is, you know, symbolically, you know, that posture of true sharing of power. So it's not new to us, and you know, so I can kind of see what I think with the fear-mongering that's going on with the anti-co-governance crew is, yeah, it's not just a Māori Pākehā issue. I really feel like that's the way that that, you know, non-Māori treat each other in the way that they govern. So within Pākehā society, there are minorities as well, and so they're just treating us the way they treat each other and themselves. And then you get the exception of people like Matua Anaru, who give us hope that, you know, the true intent of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, as he said, would be embodied in the way that we just treat each other as human beings in society.
Tēnā koe, Puna, mō tō wakautu. Matua Anuru, what are some concerns in regards to what will come on Sunday? Do you have any concerns at the moment?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I just in the conversations and with just some people from around the city and wider district around how to react to this man coming to town, and the teachings of Te Whiti and Tohu, and trying to have the balance of maintaining peace and calm, but also as Pākehā to standing up to this man and the anti-rhetoric that he is trying to bring. And the damage it's going to leave, I think, in terms of the same rhetoric pain that Māori have to endure. I mean, that's a hurtful continuation of Pākehā and colonisation. And so, for me, it's I can't sit by idly and let this happen, right? Because I just can't. And so there's ways and means, but I think it's going to bring to the surface a lot of the angst that's, as Puna said, we'll always need working on.
Me koe, Puna, kai a koe e tehi wakaro? E te...
Wai, a ko te mea tuata I ko te hapa I te mana tangata ne, so the safety of people is paramount. And, you know, the vitriol and hate that has been coming out of these hui. You know, I've been involved in active resistance and direct action through the Māori wards, and it's a hard game, whānau, and it's a dangerous game. And so you're not just turning up for a protest because the issue is important to you, you are turning up with your eyes wide open that there may be behaviours that come your way that are very, very dangerous. And even my eyes were open to that during the Māori ward process. So, look, our people's safety is paramount. We, at Rongomo Community Action, we decided that our posture would be one of not attending and the hui and giving the hatred ear, and that we would invite Julian Batchelor to Te Whare Hononga a couple of hours before the hui to sit with us in conversation and break bread. And no different to the way our tupuna responded to the enemy with food and water and an invitation to speak. Then there were other whānau who were like, oh, no way, I'll be outside protesting and I won't let them in the door and I'll sit in the doorway. And that is a posture that is, you know, completely, well, kei tira whānau tira momo tū. And
Aroha mai te wānau, I believe we're having some technical issues. So I'm just going to wait patiently, but Matua Anuru, I do have a question, and it's in regards to what did it take for you to be who you are today? And like, you're a special person to us. So, and I know that you know, I'm always calling you Matua Anuru, but for me, it's just a level of respect. So are you able to kind of describe to us, or actually give us a pretty much of a little leaf of your book, what does it mean to be Matua Anuru?
Well, so I'm 58 years old, and I was born and raised in Masterton in Wairarapa. I've been in here in Taranaki for 26 years. I was raised with a privileged life. Everything in my world was by Pākehā, for Pākehā, and I was never. You know, Julian Batchelor, what he says wriggles. You know, no secret. I'm a recovering racist. I connect with what he's saying. I understand what he's saying because I was raised by my nation to react to what he's saying. What happened? Why am I different? My heart got opened up. It was visiting my first time at Ua Marae, Sir Maui Pomori Day, and something touched me deep inside. It was a combination of the waiata, the korero, the presence of the people, the carvings. Something touched me to take hold of what I call that inner mirror and own what I saw, and that reflection was an ignorant racist Pākehā. And I see that same ignorance and racism in the words that Julian speaks to those people that go there. And for me, can I actually speak for me? I came to terms with the fact that I was acting from a place not only ignorance, but fear and no identity. I didn't know what culture meant because I didn't have a sense of culture as myself. I wasn't English. I wasn't, I could say I'm Britain, but I'm not. I was born in Masterton. I've only ever lived here in Aotearoa. And that triggered stuff in me when I unpacked it within myself. This is nothing for Māoris. This is someone saying, well, you have to find a place, Andrew. You have to take ownership of that ignorance, and you have to be different. You've got to change if you really want to be a better person. And speed forward to today, I did land somewhere. And, that cultural place was a gift from your tupuna, to my tupuna, really, and that it was through Te Tiriti. I'm Tangata Tiriti. I do have a place. I was always had that place. Māori was always there. But that place should never be above, below, ahead or behind Māori. It should be side by side. That's the beauty of the promise of the treaty. But to say I'm Tangata Tiriti means I have to stand as Tangata Tiriti and make sure that Māori are by my side. And to sum that up, really, for that journey to occur in anybody, that I would suggest in Pākehā, starts within yourself. If I could have 5 minutes with Julian, it would be for him to truly reflect into his inner self. To be honest, because you've got to live with yourself, right?
So thank you so much for answering my questions. I'm just going to be bringing up Puna back in. Tēnā koe e te tuahine, nau mai hoki mai. Ka taia koe ki te ara, mā koe e unmute button?
Ai.
Ka pai.
We'll talk with you.
So let's just come back to something here, and it's not so much about co-governance. It's more in regards to what is a solution. What can we do as a collective? Not so much focusing on the co-governance, but more in regards to what can we do? What are some things that we can do ourselves at home, or some things that we can do within the community? Puna?
I have to think about that for a moment. Ka koe matua naru?
I think, like tonight, more of this. What Puna mentioned with Rungamai, through dialogue, through invitation, through safe places to be open, we can share our ignorance in a safe way. A lot of Pākehā in my time or journey, whatever, since coming to terms with my ignorance, have said, I identified with what you said. I've never been on a marae either. I don't know how to engage into the Māori world. And it makes me think we've never really, as the people, found a way to have a cup of tea together. We've left so much up to our so-called politicians or leaders, and we know how they carry on, simply to get votes, right? And so it keeps that division alive. But I think there needs to be a movement from within ourselves to each other, ground up, and no more of the Julian Bachelor stuff. We've got to, as Pākehā particularly, we have to challenge that within ourselves and with each other. And I hope that makes sense. I just think, how do we move forward? We become the tupuna of tomorrow by the example to tomorrow's generation, to break the cycle of violence that exists within Pākehā, and to come to that table, as Puna said, that's always been there. Always. It's so sad and frustrating that we see this stuff today.
Me koe Puna?
Ai tautoko ia matua anaru. The conversations need to keep happening. We kind of, prepare for an event, and once the event's over, we go home again and feel pretty good about ourselves. And so we should, but actually the ongoing conversation when it's not needed, or always responding to something urgent like Julian and his crew. So there is a series coming up on co-governance at Te Whare Hononga. And I love it that there is that space, that community space that is a shared space.
and the ultimate example of sharing of power, which is whare hononga, Ngāti Tiriti, Te Hāhi Mihingare, the Anglican Church. There are many other examples of good partnership in action. You know, the airport that welcomes all of our manuiri, so Puketapu, Tāwhirikura. There's numerous things, the Te Winga Taumātua Committee on Council, our Māori ward representatives, and, you know, you see the CBD lighting up with Āti Awa development now. And, you know, goodbye Atkinson Building, kia ora ngā motu house. You know, we have a little bit of a giggle because it really is a victory. It's about returning the, you know, the narrative of tangata whenua back to the landscape, visually, symbolically, our wairua. And the best thing that you can do is celebrate it, talk positively about it and support it. And for those that don't understand it, I guess do anything to debug, demystify and diminish fear. That it's not a chicken licking situation. The sky is not going to fall down on you. You can still walk into, you know, your favorite cafe and have your coffee and walk your favorite beach with your dog. And, you know, there's the fear-based rhetoric that just, you know, yeah, gets in people's hearts like it's real, and it's just not. So the best thing to do is to combat, you know, utua te kino ki te pai. You know, combat that negativity with positivity. And, you know, I really love, you know, the deliberate mahi tahi with Pākehā Tangata Tiriti, of which my father is one, and therefore I am. So, yeah, but it's a deliberate thing, you know, because you know what it's like for us ngā neko, we love our own space. You know, I'll be going to the hui for the maunga on Sunday, and I'm looking forward to seeing my cousins. I can spend all my spare time talking to our own and to myself. But we need to step into other spaces that we're probably not comfortable and familiar with, and have those conversations with other people.
Yeah, I totally understand. Myself, having to be taught at a kura kaupapa Māori and yet going to piano classes or kumon maths, and I was the only Māori around. It was really daunting. So learning from a young age to be able to walk into worlds, I suppose. But I have one last question. Challenge. What challenge would you like to give people who are watching Matua Anaru?
Well, my challenge to people is to let's start some brave new conversations around how we want to shape our nation as treaty partners. I think since the signing, it's been dominated by the worldview of the Julian bachelors, and that just doesn't work. It never will work. We need to start having new conversations. So be brave, be bold, and be at peace. But find, you know, be forthright with each other in a loving, caring way. But never stop fighting for what's right. And if anything really touches me so deep, and it's through what Te Whiti and Tohu taught through love and peace, it is the only way. But it doesn't mean we step back. We still keep pushing forward like we've been doing. And so yeah, I hope that makes sense. But
and I got no stepping back, was that, and just keep on moving forward, ka pai. Ngā mihi Matua Anaru, and yourself, Puna?
I completely support everything Matua Anaru said. Look, you know, we are Taranaki maunga people. So just always remembering the posture that is uniquely us as Taranaki. And it is one of reconciliation, one that we should be proud of. It's a posture of peace. And peace isn't the absence of conflict. Peace is having the brave, courageous conversations and facing that conflict head on, exactly as Matua Anaru said, with love. But don't avoid the conversations. They're uncomfortable, and they should be, because it's only when you're in an uncomfortable place that you stretch yourself. and you sharpen yourself, and you surround yourself with other positive, loving people, so that as you sharpen each other, you're safe, and you come away knowing something new, and looking at problems in life, even not just the political ones we're talking about here. You approach it differently, with an open mind and an open heart to change. And change to me is I think the biggest fear that anyone on the anti side or the pro side faces, is the fear of having to give up something, which when you're a marginalised people, and things have been taken away from you, you know all too well what it's like to have to give something up. And so, yeah, I just encourage everybody to do something more than you're already doing, because it is the small things that really help create positive momentum around co-governance. So one thing I would say is Taranaki Maunga settlement is coming up, is happening. And so we want each and every one of you to be sharing positive kōrero about what that means, because the fear-based approach will be, oh, we won't be able to go to our mountain anymore, those Māoris are going to stop us from getting concessions, and so all of this sort of rhetoric is going to start happening in our own roe. So you need to school yourself up on what Taranaki Maunga is all about, and the settlement is all about, and start to, at your own dinner tables, demystify and debug that negative rhetoric around what is a beautiful time in our history, where we honour our tupuna Taranaki and keep him well, so that our bird life comes back and the bird song comes back. Yeah, so I would like people to educate themselves about what the Taranaki Maunga settlement is all about.
I runga I tērā, I rogo koutou ki te karere, kua puta mai ngā wakaro o ngā pau e toru I paupau ake I tō tātou ware kōrero I tēnei pō. I roto I te reo Pākehā, I just want to acknowledge our manuhiri. We had Māhina, we had yourself, Matua Ānuru, and Puna. Thank you all for sharing your okaro with everybody today, and it is humbling to know that you have given up your night just a little bit for our people. So thank you so much. Any last kōrero before I finish off with a karakia? Nō reira rei te wānau, nei te wā ka tuku ngā kupu e waka tepe pai ai I tō tātou nei ui te pōnei. Nō reira kia uru mai a au ora a au ka a au mai a ki runga ki raro ki roto ki wa o rirerire au pai mārire. Ngā mihi manua nui, ngā mihi manua tōroa ki koutou I